Thanks a lot, Matt, and welcome everyone. It's great to be here today and have the opportunity to chat to you guys. I thought I would start by sharing a little bit of our history and about the first few weeks of Mable and how that really shaped our mission today. Before that first launch for about 3 months, we had been essentially working around the clock with a couple of young developers. They were super young and they were the only guys that we could afford to build what we needed to do a test launch. We were reviewing functionality and journeys and designs at night while they coded during the day. Bit of a crazy time. And in the background, my co-founder Peter and I were trying hard to get 50 workers on the platform before we test launched to clients. There was lots of meetings, lots of coffees, lots of rejections, lots of people telling us it would not work. I remember one nurse saying, "Oh, it's madness. Who's going to buy or book a care worker off the internet?" Another personal care worker offered, there was no way support workers will run their own businesses. It's just not them. So there was actually quite a lot of negativity. At some point we felt we were a little bit doomed, but we persisted and finally managed to get 50 workers on the platform in around 2014. The website was ready to go live and we needed customers. So I slapped down my credit card and with the keyword home care and we started on our journey. At the time I was manning the phones and we managed to recruit one other support coordinator to our cause. There was a 1300 number, it got diverted to our mobiles and we waited. A couple of days later, I came back to the admin panel and there was a client. Her name was VJ. She was messaging looking for care for her mum, Irene. Couldn't believe it. We had our first client. They found a lovely lady named Para, and I called Para and VJ and helped them to get a match. And I dug out a quote from that time, which I thought I'd share with you all. This is what VJ said. "I was able to go away on holidays knowing that my mum was being cared for by someone we had chosen together. Culture is very important to my mother. I was happy to find someone that would be able to connect with her." I think VJ really nailed it with this concept of connection and the words connect with. What I learned in those first few weeks, I think have stayed with me and the Mable team today. When we started, for some reason we were getting really complex cases. So the agency was new, people had new plans, clients that other providers did not want were sort of ending up on Mable. And it was also happening on the aged care side as well. We were getting clients that the industry had almost rejected and we were a bit of a last resort. It was super confronting. I think family carers were desperate, struggling, lonely and disconnected. And I think a lot of the time speaking with the support teams at the time, they actually felt the same way. So you tend to get caught up in your own little world a lot of the time, and the start of Mable was a real jolt for me personally. We were in the middle of people going through some of the most difficult things, but what impressed me was despite all that hardship, support teams showed up, provided support and care, and they did it from the heart. And my appreciation of those who provided support and the impact they could have on a client or a patient was really born. 3 ideas were really cemented, and these concepts really stay with us today. The power of human connection, I think the transformative impact good support can have on a person's life. And there was validation in those early days that Mable in its small way could help solve a problem and have some positive impact on people. I think what was a technical problem for me up to that time became a very human one, both to myself and Peter and those first few team members at Mable. And that purpose really has stayed with us today. I think if you could see what it's like in our company with our, there's 400 of us now, there's a real sense of purpose and passion trying to really help solve some of these gnarly problems. We have come a long way, I think, and that one client has grown to over 40,000 clients receiving support from Mable over the last quarter. We're approaching 20 million hours of care delivered through the platform, and currently we deliver around 500,000 hours of care and support each and every month across Australia, and that's growing every month. There's about 200,000 new relationships and connections that have been created through the platform. And when you stop to think about it, that care and support from this community spans from people receiving 24/7 high acuity clinical support. Some of those clients are approaching end of life, right through to a person with a disability wanting to spend an evening at the football, to a speech therapist providing an autistic child lifelong tools to help them communicate, right through to an ageing person having their roses pruned for next week's bloom. It's constant, it's 24/7, and I think everyone here is part of that community, that team that helps deliver that. That's where we are today. I think, just briefly, here are some themes that inspire me and the Mable team. And in some ways, I think we're really just getting started with our work at Mable. The first one is human connection. I think you guys have all heard about this concept of disconnection and loneliness and isolation that seems to be accelerating. I think something we all feel. I'm personally no stranger to it. And I have a question to our teams, or maybe a hope, that we can take Mable and help create a community that might be a bit of an antidote to that disconnection. Can we create more tools for our communities, our support teams, to foster and promote connection, and relationships that form online and quickly move to a real tangible, genuine one, I think is powerful. And we have built the bones of that idea. And our question is, can we take what we do today and really power connection? Not only across clients and workers, but between clients and between workers. I think healthcare and technology, something I'm sort of personally super passionate about, and how can Mable play a role in delivering health technology to our network and start powering and improving our clients' clinical outcomes. An example of that today you guys might not have heard about is Homemade. That's an approved provider. We built that from scratch. It's a proprietary platform. It has about 2,000 clients already, and 70% of those clients use Mable for their core and support needs. And in that company today, we use large language models across all the shift notes that you guys deliver each and every day when you do a shift. We take those shift notes through those models, and we can determine really meaningful intervention points, client deterioration, and it's really powerful. So no other provider we know of is innovating in quite the same way. And we really feel Mable is at the start of that journey, and our ability, there's literally a laundry list of impactful technology that we can deploy through the platform. And the last theme, I think, is being independent, this idea of self-direction for clients and workers. Independence is a value that's close to me. I prize it. Not everyone is blessed to be able to live that kind of life. And the concept of self-direction is really what the NDIS and the aged care reforms are built on. And I think our vision state is that independence can also apply to support workers. What work you do, how you do it, should be rights that you can have. And I know our current worker and client experience isn't perfect, but we can build a lot of tools to drive that self-direction and drive that independence, really tooling both sides of Mable to meet and engage in meaningful ways. Our current product experience, although that's our vision state, I know there are lots of challenges in the way Mable works today, and there's literally a laundry list of day-to-day challenges that we're trying to solve. I wanted to touch on a few of those today, give you a handle on some commentary on them. I think the first one is regulatory. I get a lot of questions about this, and I just thought I would touch on some of our take on some of the reforms that we're being exposed to. We are really at the intersection of a bunch of different types of regulation. There's NDIS regulation, there's aged care regulation, there's employment law, there's ACCC and other regulators that are really, intersect in terms of the work that we do at Mable. I think we're pretty popular at the moment, given our scale. I think not a day goes by that we don't get a letter from some regulator in terms of looking at our model. And I think we're proactive, very proactive, in fact, in terms of trying to navigate that. I think these concepts of self-direction and independence, particularly given a vulnerable community, can be at risk with regulation, and we're here really trying to promote those concepts and make sure they live and survive. And to touch on a bit of the detail, there's a new Aged Care Act coming. I think we're pretty positive about that. I think it regulates care platforms like Mable, and I think a lot of the tenets of the Mable platform went into that act. There's more regulations for providers, but we at Mable think we can be a tool to make sure that providers have access to independent support workers and make sure that they can discharge their obligations in the right way. NDIS is a little bit different. I think there's a bit more ambiguity in the NDIS. They're introducing mandatory worker registration. We're on a worker task force in that respect, and we're hoping that, and we're working with the agency directly, where we can essentially be pragmatic and maybe have an approach where we essentially register everyone through Mable, and that means that everyone on Mable gets automatic registration. That's a vision state that we hope we can try and achieve. There's regulation or reviews around abolishing plan managers, introducing concepts around a digital marketplace. I think, and even Bill Shorten said this the other day, there's always room for good plan managers, so we don't think that those intermediaries are going away, but we are being buffeted by a lot of different principles, a lot of different policies. But for us, I feel like we can navigate those in an appropriate way, and there's nothing to worry about in that sense, in the sense that Mable is here to stay. And these concepts of self-direction and people booking their own support teams and having choice, are really enshrined now at the moment. The last one is employment law regulation, and you might have heard a lot of the gig economy platforms are being regulated by this. This is essentially a set of regulation where if you set up terms between a client and a worker, the Fair Work Commission may be able to come in and say, well, we think these terms are different, or we feel that these particular terms are unfair. We feel we're excluded from that piece of legislation, given the way we operate our platform. So we don't think it's going to impact Mable at all. And we sort of feel it also goes or flies in the face of this idea of independence. Like, if a relationship and terms are sought between individuals, then that's between them, and that's sort of our value around making sure that we can not interfere in that in a way that goes against those parties exercising their choice and control. Some quick platform updates. I think where there's a real movement to try and have a pace of innovation at Mable in terms of putting features and tools and experiences that are really meaningful for you guys. And I wanted to try and give you a bit of a feel for what's happening, what's coming in the next little while. I know payments is a massive source of pain for workers. I think we've recently deployed line items and invoices. That took us 12 months, given the vast number of plan managers that are with Mable. And that's led to about 95% of timesheets being paid within 14 days. We've still got a way to go. I think there's a laundry list of initiatives to really try to increase that. And our vision state is really simple. We want to be the platform that pays you the quickest. You do a shift on Mable, you get paid within a few days, not a few weeks. And our ultimate target is to try and get that down to next day. That's really our vision state. We've also introduced per kilometre travel recently, which allows you to bill for travel time or travel cost to and from your shifts. Planned sessions, so some scheduling things that you'll see coming in the next few months, which we're pretty excited about, really to help you keep track of and support when shifts are going to occur. There's improvements to the application process, and we're continually improving our matching algorithms. In a few weeks, you'll see Super and Tax Sync. This means you'll be able to log in and from each and every timesheet take a certain amount of what you earn and put it aside for Super and for tax time. It's a feature that I think a lot of workers have been crying out for quite a long time. And this one might be of interest. Upskilling and training days, monthly webinar programs. There's also automated timesheets coming in the next 12 months. So this is the idea of you go to a shift, we can automatically sense that shift is happening, and we can automatically fill your timesheet for you to approve, so we can reduce your admin time in that regard. There's also initiatives to keep our community safe. So this one's been in the wings for quite a long time. We're introducing ID verification for all clients. So that means before a client can even send one message to a worker, we would have ID verified them with some various forms of ID. And that means that we know all our clients, and to the extent that there's some conduct or a communication that's not appropriate, we can intervene at a really, we know who we're dealing with and we can intervene at a quick time. We're also revamping our comms tools on the mobile app. So you'll get a native, what's called a native app in a few months, which means your comms will be quick, it won't be going down so much, and it'll also be a bunch of other feature sets that come along with that. I think the last thing I wanted to touch on was this idea of getting access to the right work, or good workers getting access to the right work. I think we all have a right or a role to play in keeping our community safe. And over the last several months, we've had this increasing safety issue where clients are coming back to Mable seeking support from incidents, safety, or payments or clinical teams, or even on our insurance in circumstances where that relationship has gone off platform or it's gone direct. You guys probably know Mable provides pretty comprehensive insurances. When a worker arranges individual insurance, in a lot of cases, it doesn't have the full suite of protections that we offer. And we never really acted on this in a meaningful way in terms of this idea of workers going direct with clients. We've sort of let it alone pretty much for 10 years. But given this very increasing safety issue, and you might have seen some comms over the last few months as well, combined with this increasing regulatory environment, we feel we need to focus a bit more on client safety so really to ensure that clients aren't left without a safety net, because when they come to Mable, they feel like there's a bit of a safety net. There's an infrastructure where if something does go wrong, there's someone to call. So there's going to be a program of work where we try and ensure that only workers who are doing the right thing by the Mable community are staying on platform. The other factor you might not be aware of is that the amount of jobs lost to these workers is really large. And I know access to work and getting the right work is really critical for you guys. And to the extent that we can avert that, all that demand can come back on platform and be diverted to a lot of the workers that are doing the right thing. So I feel like by not actually regulating this in a way, Mable itself is probably not performing its job. And then the last slide is something I just wanted to reinforce, which is the idea of our value. And I don't know to what extent the whole community sort of realises this, but it's really that graph in the bottom left-hand corner there, which is we charge 16.6% out of every dollar of care. So every dollar from the NDIS or an aged care package, Mable, when you go through the math, takes out 16.6%. Higher up, about 32%. And traditional providers, that's close to 50%. So that means we liberate between $20 and $30 per hour compared to traditional providers. That's significant value from each and every hour of care, and it's shared. It goes back to workers in terms of higher rates and clients in terms of more hours. And across 20 million hours, we've saved about 400 million in savings that we've distributed really back to the community. I think the important point here is we've delivered that with a better care experience to clients. And importantly, I think what we're trying to achieve really is a balance between safeguards, where we can deliver affordable care, quality care and safe care at the lowest possible margin, whilst at the same time being true to this idea of independence and choice. And I think to give you a sort of data point for that, across our 20 million hours, our serious incident rate is 1/10 that, or 90% lower than the existing industry. So really powerful data point to show that the balance of safeguards that we have is maintaining these idea of independence and choice and being able to choose who comes into your home, as well as safety and quality of care. I think that's really it for me. So thank you very much for listening to some of these points. And I was going to introduce Paul Wainwright.